Hello folks and welcome back. We're going to talk through the Premier League weekend, match week 1. We're going to do this every single week. Of course, I'll be looking for your comments in the comment section down below. But let's talk about it then. There was a theme of the weekend. Big men up top. It was like Football Manager reincarnated. It was terrifying. I'm going to take you through all the games then as we talk about each of them individually and hopefully figuring out what's what. What did we learn in this Premier League weekend? Well, Erling Haaland's good, isn't he? And we'll start with Erling Haaland, then a 2-0 win for Manchester City, and he's arrived. And it turns out he's as good as everyone said. And it's terrifying. What I liked was everyone's confusion about how fast he was. It was like, oh my god, he's not only big, 6'4", and can run and can head as well. He's very quick, isn't he? He's got sort of like gazelle-like movements, which I've known about for a while. But when you see them in the Premier League, you're like, oh, he is a gazelle. Sure, that's what he wanted when he got his big move to City, to be referred to as a gazelle. It was sort of a classic Manchester City performance with a striker, which for the rest of the league, obviously, is quite worrying. People were writing him off after the Community Shield. Not me. He's very good. He's obviously very good. He's basically got a goal a game record in his career. How many he's going to score this year, I don't know. Well, I've suggested Gabriel Jesus is going to be top goal scorer this year, but it's quite clearly going to be Erling Haaland. That's the real question. But Pep Guardiola's side now look even more fit to lift another title with him up front. Him and De Bruyne seem to have a nice connection, as do Grealish and Haaland. And that's the danger, isn't it? Even with some of the misses that City have had this summer, with the likes of Sterling leaving and Zinchenko, who was obviously a key part of the squad. Bernardo Silva might leave as well. So we'll get to see what City's sort of final form looks like, but it's scary for the rest of the league, isn't it? The penalty he wins is obviously really good. It's a really cool finish for that. It's the second goal, though, that I think raises everyone's eyebrows a little bit. It's like, oh, he's going to do that to everybody. And it puts City on their way then. A really good result for them. As far as West Ham are concerned, results against Manchester City aren't going to define their season. They did a lot of running. That's sort of all the notes I've got for them. It's hard. When City play like that, when they dominate the ball, they're basically all over you. I don't think City had a touch. Obviously, Fabianski went off in the first half. It was nice of him to do a little bit of goalkeeping and think, I'm not watching this for the rest of the game. Again, they won't be defined by it. Skamaka came on. We saw a few nice touches from him. There was a header in particular that you thought, blimey, if you do that a lot, you'll score. So, yeah, some things to be positive about for West Ham. But overall, this was the Haaland show. And Haaland's here. That's the title of the video. Haaland is here. But let's focus on a few of the other games. We're not going to focus on every single game, but let's take you back to Friday night, the game that kicked it all off then, Crystal Palace versus Arsenal. And Arsenal started really well. Gabriel Jesus looks like he's at the centre of everything, which is just what Arsenal have been lacking in recent years. Not only is he looking like a man who's got a threat when it comes to goal scoring, but also his interplay with Odegaard and with Martinelli looked really, really exciting. Saka as well over on that side. He could be the man to drive them into the top 4 this year. It feels like without him, though, they might struggle because of how pivotal he appeared early on. Zinchenko seemed to fit in really well. The midfield tandem of Partey and Xhaka seemed to have a really nice connection. And again, was working what was in front of them. That's obviously sometimes been the issue for me with Arsenal, is that link play moving forward together seemed a little bit off. But the balance that Arteta has struck with this Arsenal side now just looks really exciting. And I think if you're an Arsenal fan, there's a lot of positives to take from this. Obviously, we're going to see as the season goes by if they can find this sort of consistency. But an away win at Palace, it's that type of game for me, which if they can dominate in and look really strong in, that's going to give them that real chance of finishing in the top 4. The second half, it sort of slowed down a little bit. Palace came back into it. They had a lot of the ball in the second half as well. But Arsenal looked really comfortable defensively as well. There's a lot made of the Zaha-Ben White battle, which I think you could definitely argue Ben White won pretty comfortably. Gabriel again at the back looks really, really solid. And I really like Gabriel. He just looks like one of the best defenders in the league, right? Positionally, he looks really good. Big, strong boy as well. Just seems to have control of everything that goes around him. Again, I think as much as I think Jesus is important at the top end, I think a lot will be made of his influence on that back line and how he gets the best out of those players around him. It gives you a lot of confidence, whether if you're playing next to him or in front of him or behind him, knowing he's there. And Arsenal now seem to have that guy that you can pin their defensive responsibility on. And that's a really good thing, isn't it? For Palace, I just think half of their games are going to be that this year. Try and hit them on the break. Try and look for openings, right? The likes of Eze and Zaha and Alicia and a few others. It just wasn't their game. Arsenal seemed in control and then tended to shut it down quite easily. And Palace never really had a sniff. Again, they'll have better days. All right, then that takes us on to the Saturday. And we're going to focus on the next game that happened in the calendar of football fixtures. Fulham versus Liverpool. And as a Liverpool fan, wasn't great, was it? If you don't play for an hour and you just let Fulham do whatever they like, even as a newly promoted side, They're going to make you look really stupid. It was actually woeful. There was no rhythm. They looked miles off it, like so off it. Maybe they were expecting it to be quite easy, and you just hopefully lesson learned, right? If it's gonna be a lesson, get a point, get out, and forget and move on. But that was not the team of the Community Shield. It was like they thought the levels were going to be so much lower than that they could sort of take the foot off the gas a little bit. What was most alarming for me was Liverpool are, in most people's opinions, and mine included, most strong on that right-hand side, right? With Trent, with Salah, with Henderson. Those three players were rubbish. We're like three players that get a lot of plaudits for being the best leader, for being the best player, for being the best assister or most creative player in the league with Trent. All three of them really poor. It didn't help that Fabinho and Thiago didn't have particularly good games, and Bobby Firmino didn't really find a grip of anything. But yeah, really poor. Luis Diaz played okay. He was the only player in that first half that came out of it with any credit. But other than that, pretty lucky to get a draw. Nunes comes on and creates chaos. That seems to be his thing. It's like Klopp presses the Nunes button and he comes out and he's just like, right, I'm going to run around and barge into people a bit and maybe get a bit lucky and score a goal. It's the type of goal, like the second goal, where it sort of just hits him and Salah finishes it. Liverpool don't score those type of goals. Well, maybe they do now. And in big games, you're going to see moments where Liverpool have those moments and it's just like, well, I'm not sure if they've deserved that, but they've got it. And Nunes kind of brings that quality, which some of the best strikers in the world have got, by the way. Like that ability to be a little bit lucky is never a bad thing. The worry for Liverpool fans will be if there's a close game and a big chance goes Nunes' way, will he finish it? He's only 22, plenty of time to develop. That's the big question. Forget Liverpool though, because it wasn't about them. There was a striker on the pitch that was potentially the best player of the whole weekend. Aleksandar Mitrovic dominated. He made Liverpool defensively look really basic. This is a triangle of Matip, Van Dijk and Fabinho, a triangle that just a week ago Erling Haaland found very difficult to deal with. And Mitrovic did everything right, would press up against Van Dijk when he needed to, right? Would be this big physical force, would drop deeper, sort of behind Fabinho, getting in places where Liverpool couldn't pick him up and bringing others into play. For a player that spent last year in the Championship, and I'm often critical of Championship strikers that come up, he looked every bit a Premier League player. And if Fulham can get him doing that against not just the best teams, but dominating some of the smaller sides or less fancied sides in the division, my word, they've got, that's the sort of performance. And it's one game and it's the first weekend. It's the sort of performance that makes you go, they've got a bit of a chance to stay up here. And no one really expected that. Not only that, he won the penalty. I mean, Virgil van Dijk forgot how to defend momentarily. Definitely a penalty. They hit knees. People going, it's not a penalty. You can't hit knees. You can't stick a leg out, have the striker hit into it and go, well, actually, not a penalty. No, it is a penalty. You've made the effort to try and stop him. Missed the ball, caught the man. Just the rules. I feel like we might be doing a lot of rules this year. I love rules. But in summary, really, Liverpool, a little bit lucky to get the point, and Fulham definitely deserving of it. If there's one thing for Liverpool, it's that Klopp knew it as well. They can't play like that again. So to get it out of the way now, probably a good thing. But that's easier said than done. You can't let this happen again. At the end of the video, we're going to be looking at the three heroes of the weekend, really. I've decided to call them players of the week. I know, I've really thought about a name. And then we've got losers of the week. So as we go through, think about yours. And I'll be asking you at the end of the video to leave your players of the week and losers of the week. Actually, it doesn't have to be players, just people of the week. All right, let's fly through some of the other fixtures that were good, but not as big a talking points. Bournemouth got a brilliant return to the Premier League victory against Aston Villa, who looked way off it. I was watching that game and the Spurs game at the same time, completely legally. But they defended really well, got 2 set-piece goals. On the reverse side of that, the lack of creativity for Aston Villa, with Coutinho in the side, really poor. Like, just their general play wasn't very good at all. Danny Ings really wasn't cooking. If Villa are going to have any success, I think they need to do 2 things. Ollie Watkins needs to play every game this season, and Emi Buendia needs to be the star of the creative force that Villa are trying to set up this season, and Coutinho is the man you bring on if it's not working, not the other way around. Anyway, Villa fans, let me know. It wasn't good. I've got them 7th, so I look stupid as well. Ellen Road leads come back. Well, I'll say come back after a really difficult season last year with a 2-1 win against Wolves. The first Wolves goal is really weird, the way it just sort of bobbles around and then bounces off the floor and in. It's a bit scrappy. Leeds then go and do the same thing at the other end with a cool finish from Rodrigo. But 2 battling goals, and it was a good tie. This a really good battle of 2 different styles almost as well. You've got to say, I'm very, very happy for Bamford to come back into the side and not really feature last year. Leeds lose Rafinha and Calvin Phillips in recent times, but Bamford was sort of one of the stars of the Leeds team, I think you'd say. comes back in, makes it about him a little bit, should have scored a really good chance from a header, but forces the own goal and arguably gets Leeds the win. Jesse Marsch was having... I don't like seeing Jesse Marsch get angry. At the end of the game, he's giving a bit of verbal. Less of that. I don't want to see that, all right? You're better than that, Jesse. Don't want to see it. Seems like a very nice man. I don't want to see him getting arguing. And it's an easy comparison to make. If Ted Lasso was doing it, it'd be annoying me. So, hack it in, Jesse. Now look, there is a confidence about Newcastle United we should all be afraid of. Newcastle's home form is just following on from last season. Eddie Howe, I mentioned it in my prediction video. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. Only lost twice at home when he took over from Steve Bruce. It was against Liverpool and against City, and they went unbeaten against everybody else. Forest turn up, looking like a newly promoted side, which is probably the most insulting thing you can say, but they look like a newly promoted side. Whereas Eddie Howe's boys are just firing. Gamares just runs shit. Can I say, am I allowed to be swearing in this series? I don't think there's any rules, are there? He could play for anyone in this league. I'll say it. He could play for anyone. The Fabian Schar goal is arguably goal of the weekend. I mean, no one's really sure where that's gone from. And I suggested in my prediction video that they're going to have to rely on the goals of Callum Wilson. Doesn't look to me like they're going to buy a striker. Well, he scored, so job done. My fear for Forest is if they don't score or win a game soon, that's going to get out of hand. They have to... I've seen it happen so many times. They've got to win a game soon. For as much as Steve Cooper seems like a really nice bloke and some of their signings look really interesting and exciting, and for all the money spent, they have to win. And I know it's only match week 1 against a very good Newcastle side at home, but I don't want to be here next week going, they've lost again, they've lost again. It'll become a theme, and I'm worried about them. Right, time to talk about champions-elect Tottenham Hotspur. Now, is Kulusevski the best player in the league? That's what we need to ask ourselves now, viewers. He could be. I mean, it was a really, really good performance. And when you see a player like Kulusevski have that kind of performance, you realise that the pressure this year that may have been taken off Son and off Harry Kane, and of course they've signed Richarlison as well, they're a top 4 team based off one game. It looks like Conte is going to work those players in slowly that have been signed, the likes of Basuma, right? We're probably going to see Richarlison at some point, but it's not going to be the case of let's start them and change the way we do everything. Let's bring them into a setup that is already proving to be quite successful. Tottenham just looked in cruise control. Well, James Ward-Prowse gets an early goal, not a free kick. If he starts scoring from open play, we've all got issues. Someone needs to put a stop to that now. That's the last one of those. Thank you, James. I want free kicks in the top corner only. Only those, please. And also, we've got to talk about... So they've won 4-1 Tottenham, but the highlight of the game isn't anything they've done. It's the Salisu own goal. What? He's sort of... I can't even explain. He's done the classic thing where he could just use his right foot, but he's gone, no, I'm a professional footballer, and I've been using my left foot the whole time. I'm going to use my left foot now. I've kicked it in my own goal there. What have I done? If you haven't seen that own goal, you have to go and watch that own goal. It's a brilliant own goal. Because as he does it, he sort of goes, I should have just used my right foot. Oh, you silly idiot. But it was really easy for Tottenham, which meant it was really bad for Southampton. I have them going down. I am still worried about them. It's the first, again, I've said this a few times. It's match week 1. All right, you've got loads of time to cock this up. Don't worry about it. And finally on the Saturday, there was the later kickoff. Everton lost 1-0 to Chelsea. We'll move on. All right, Sunday rolled around then. 2 games started pretty early in the day. It was Leicester versus Brentford and Manchester United versus Brighton. We'll get Leicester Brentford out of the way. No disrespect, but there was funny things that happened. 2 great goals, by the way. Dewsbury Hall and Josh Da Silva scoring 2 of the goals of the weekend. Probably those 2 and the Schar goal, right? If you're doing a goal of the week, are we doing goal of the? We're not doing goal of the week. Well, we are. We might do. We might do goal of the week. James Maddison whips in a corner for Leicester's first goal. Castagne at the front post nods in. You then have a goal from Dewsbury Hall from the edge of the box, which is really well struck, actually. Lovely left foot. With all the confusion around Leicester of like, will Tielemans leave and will Fofana leave? He's one of the guys that you know is going to be there for a little while, so it's someone they can build around. If they can keep him in the side with the likes of Maddison and a few others, they'll be fine this year. Again, top half finish should be the minimum for that Leicester team, you're thinking. As long as they hold on to everybody, disruption could be their biggest problem. On the other side of it, it's a really good point for Brentford. Tony gets his goal as well. As I say, the Josh Da Silva goal is really, really nice. It's just one of those seasons for Brentford. The scary thing for their fans will be, we don't want to get that second season syndrome and be relegated, and it all feel like it gets away from us a little bit quickly. They started the season last year really brightly. I think for Brentford this year, they beat Arsenal opening day, right? Couldn't get much better for them. this season, again, it has to be a bit of consistency against the sides that they feel like they're competitive against. So getting a point away at Leicester is really big for them in the context of the whole season. It's a really good point. Right, let's go to Old Trafford then. I can't wait. Turns out, managing Manchester United, really hard, isn't it? And I think the most damning thing you can say about that Manchester United performance this weekend is that if it was Ralf Rangnick or Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you wouldn't have known the difference. And the worrying thing is for Ten Hag is that in pre-season, Manchester United didn't look like that. And yes, pre-season, pinch of salt, all that, it doesn't matter necessarily. But when you're building an idea and a bit of a philosophy and a rhythm and a theory of how you want to win football matches, and you see none of it, what? I've been really interested to know how different Manchester United would have looked had Anthony Martial played. They'd have had that focal point up front, the goal scorer up front, basically. When Ronaldo came on, it didn't really work, and you get the sense that he just won't be here come the end of the transfer window. And if he is, it feels like a bad thing for everybody, for him, for Ten Hag, for the United fans, almost. No one enjoys the fact he's there right now because it's so obvious he wants to leave, and he also doesn't really fit into the idea of what Ten Hag is trying to build. And even though Anthony Martial has been a bit part of Manchester United, it feels like he suits what's going on a little more. The other confusing thing is you can't, I don't think anyway, maybe I'm wrong, I don't think you can play Christian Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes in the same side. I definitely think it's really difficult to play them both as false nines in the same game. I don't really know. Forget all that for a minute though, because why? I know why, because they've not decided to buy anybody who plays there. Now let's talk about McFred, which is one of the worst duo names ever. I think Scott McTominay having a 68% pass completion in the middle of a Manchester United midfield against Brighton probably ain't going to cut it, sunshine. But the two of them don't really know, and this is a worrying thing from a footballer perspective. And it sounds so simple, don't get me wrong. We'll talk about Manchester United in more depth in the future multiple times. They don't know where to stand. That's bad, isn't it? Defensively, there's like this, like when they are bypassed so easily, easier than any other midfield I've ever seen. And there's two of them that do the same thing, just on both sides. They run like that. They are really bad at shuffling across and covering from one another. It's just not fun to watch. And clearly, 80% from Fred, 69% or whatever it was from McTominay, they don't pass the ball particularly well either. So what are they doing playing for Man United? Seems really obvious. And they're trying to sign Frankie de Jong, which is definitely happening. Not going to happen, is it? It's not going to happen. And for all of the bad things about Manchester United, and again, there was loads of them. David De Gea's, that was bad. Let's give some credit to Brighton, who were gross. In the way, you know when you go something sick, and realistically, that shouldn't be a word to mean good, but they were gross. He scored twice. I've got some real doubts about Brentford. It's Ivan Toney just with the Brighton team. Now, I've got some real doubts about Brighton this season. I really worry that they were going to lose Basuma, lose Cucurella, and it was all going to start to... It's like you take a few cards out from the card... You can't call it card triangle. The card triangle. And it all starts to fall apart. House of cards? I don't know. Either way, stop taking the cards out. They're important cogs to the machine. They're not. Adam Lallana rolling back the years in midfield. And we're talking about big strikers, right? They've been dominant this weekend. I mentioned Erling Haaland. We mentioned Nunes did some scary things when he came on. Mitrovic was a highlight. Danny Welbeck. Goodness, hello. How are you getting on? Was that suitably patronising enough? Absolutely ran the show against Martinez and Maguire, who just... He was elusive. His touch is phenomenal. Like, it's better than it should be. And I'm watching him. You're looking at him thinking... You should never have left them. You should just play for Man United still and be the focal point to everything else that goes around them. And I'll tell you now, Man United, you could do worse than signing back 15 million. Put the bid in. Just do it. Also helps with European registration. So think about it. The football manager in me there coming out. It's like, have we got enough? What's Luke Chadwick doing? Get him back. But Brighton were excellent, right? Trossard really, really good. As I mentioned, Welbeck in the centre, and Casido just looks really good. He's really good. United could have signed him, apparently. So that's going to sting a bit. Defensively, really strong as well. Lewis Dunk just commands things at the back, doesn't he? I thought Sanchez had a great game. Had a really good stop from a Rashford shot, which he should have done better with. Brighton just look as good as they were last year. And I've got worries about them. I worry that lack of quality in certain games is going to prove to be difficult, especially against sides that aren't as willing to attack. But equally, wow, Graham Potter doing a brilliant job, isn't he? Says everybody, everywhere. You won't find anyone say differently. For United... It's happening again, isn't it? I told you in my video, nothing's changed. Everything's just exactly the same. I'm secretly loving it. But there's a bit of me that wants them to do better, and I don't know what it is. So then that concludes our weekend action. And what was that? Was I doing a L'Oreal advert? What's just gone on there? So that concludes our weekend's action. I've got my 3 winners of the week. Winners of the week. Let's change the name of this segment. Winners of the week, and then losers of the perfect. So in reverse order, my winners of the week are in 3rd place, Kulusevski for Tottenham. One of the best performances of the weekend. Looks really good. Looks at home in that Tottenham side. I'm expecting big things. In at number 2, Erling Haaland. Debut game in the Premier League, and he's already made it look like his playground. That's scary. At number 1, and I could have given it to Danny Welbeck, but Alexander Mitrovic has made, in my opinion, the best defender in the world look rubbish. So well done to Alexander Mitrovic. He wins my winners of the week. He didn't even win the game. Fabian Schar can't believe this. Give me your list. Top 3 winners of the week. Let me know who they are. And in reverse order then, our losers of the week. If Mitrovic is the winner, one of the losers of the week has to be Virgil van Dijk. I mean, you won't get to put him on this list very often, but not good from him on any... He's been dealt with by Mitrovic. Next up, we mentioned his own goal, Salisu. He's one of my winners, really. It was my highlight of the week. Such a funny own goal. But no, he's second in my losers of the week. And then at the top of the list, the biggest losers of the week, everyone that watched Everton Chelsea. For the love of God. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. We don't get that time back, do we? We do not get that time back. Gordon looked good up front, and I hope Ben Godfrey gets well soon. But the rest of it... All right then, that concludes this look at match week 1 of the Premier League. I'm going to do this for every single week of the Premier League. Oh, I'm committed. That's right. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. And make sure you're subscribed, as there'll be a lot more of this to come on this channel. Take care of yourselves. We'll be back again soon. And let me know again, winners, losers of the week. I'm interested. Please don't put me in the losers section, because I thought Villa would finish 7th. We've all made mistakes this weekend.